Leaders of the European Union have been holding talks on boosting the bloc's competitiveness. Concerns over US tariffs and China's assertive economic policies have prompted a reassessment of Europe's thinking on trade and diplomacy. It's hoped that cutting bureaucracy and modernizing the single market will help EU industries to compete. The French and German leaders say a more nimble approach is required.
We want to make this European Union faster, better, and above all, we want to ensure that we have competitive industry in Europe.
There's also increasing pressure on us, and as we can clearly see, with very strong competition, unfair competition, and very strong pressure from China, with the tariffs imposed on us by the Americans and threats of coercive practices. All of this requires a response.
Well, those European leaders are meeting at Aldenbiesen Castle in the Belgian province of Limburg. Our correspondent Anchal Vohra is there. Welcome, Anchal. What was discussed today?
Well, I just had managed a word with the Belgian Prime Minister and asked him what they managed to achieve today. And he said that they spoke about in the context of the single market, a savings union, an energy union, and a telecom union. He added that while that may not be achieved this year or even the next, the fact that work on that front has begun would prove to be historic. Now, these are very important subjects because essentially what he's talking about is tapping into billions, trillions of euros of savings lying in banks all across Europe, money that can be mobilized to boost businesses here to scale up European economy. In addition to that, they spoke about the need to have a unified energy policy. This is a big problem with businesses all over Europe because energy prices are uneven and high, and this is bothering the European industry. This is something that the European leaders today sat down and had a conversation about. No concrete deliverables, but work on a roadmap has begun. A very senior official here in the EU told me on the condition of anonymity that this year the work in the EU will be on European competitiveness.
They've been talking about improving competitiveness for donkey's years. Was anything different this time?
Trump, the threat from the United States of America to trade ties. China's policies were already problematic for the bloc. There's a huge trade deficit. Whilst they were still figuring out how to bridge that, Trump's trade policies have really caused panic here. Even before this, the Europeans were working on how to seek their independence from Russian energy sources. But now that framework of independence has widened. Officials here now talk about independent in, all sorts of respects, not just from the Chinese, but also independencies from Europe. So the conversation here now is taking place in that context. And I have to say, with some sense of urgency. Of course, they do not agree on everything, not yet. And that's the process that, is actually taking place here in Brussels.
Yeah, let's talk about that unanimity, because 27 countries with 27 different sets of interests. So how aligned are they on this?
On several things, they are aligned. They are talking about common energy policy and even savings and investments union. However, how that would actually work out on that front, differences remain. Having said that, as always, there's I say as always because, France always has its own ideas. And this time around as well, the French president is pushing for what he calls bi-European policy, which is essentially calling for European preference when it comes to public procurement and funding for European companies. Now, the French officials say, look, the Chinese are doing it. Now we see the US, tariff policy, which at least is intended from this White House's view to boost manufacturing within the US. Whether it achieves that or not is a different question. So why not us as well? We've got to protect our industry. However, other countries like Germany and others, they say this is about free trade. The EU is about free trade. We benefited from it and we're not going to give it up, not easily. However, some sort of consensus may emerge and this bi-European policy may actually turn out to be sector-specific.
Thank you for that, Anchal Vohra in Belgium.